So in this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 things you need to stop doing in your jazz MIDI mockups. These are things that either just make it sound fake and very clearly MIDI and not a real performer, or they're just things I tend to hear a lot that people put in their tracks and when they're trying to make them sound jazzy, but they just kind of sound bad. Okay, number 1, make sure chord tones are on strong beats. Now, of course, like all rules, they're made to be broken. So in the right circumstance, you can definitely do this. But if you find that your lines are just not quite sitting right or sound a little weird, this might be the culprit. So I've got a little track here, and I just have something played in real quick, and I kind of tried to break all the rules. So the general rule is you want to have the chord tone as often as possible, the chord tones of the beats, or even tensions that sound good, so like the 9s and the 13s. So I've just played a phrase so you can kind of hear all the rules being broken. Smart delay is on, so you'll see this be a bar ahead. But check it out and just listen to it. So, you know, it has a general jazz kind of feel, but it just feels a little awkward and kind of hokey. And so the easiest and quickest fix for a lot of this is just to make sure that anytime you have a chromatic note, that it's on an offbeat. And you know, you don't always want it. Sometimes you're really hearing something, and that's okay. But in general, I would take a phrase like this. So you have a C7 chord, and then we have B, C, F sharp, G. So you can see these two approaches. This is chromatic from here to here, from here to here, and then chromatic from here to here. And so you see we have it on the beat, the B natural on the C, and an F sharp on a G on the beat. Sounds kind of just generally yucky. So I would, here's the same phrase in the piano roll. So instead of that, I just have it do a pickup. Okay, so I just made a few adjustments, tried to put more chord tones on the beats, and let's hear how it sounds. So it still has the same feel, same contour, almost all the same notes, just adjusted and moved so that the strong beats have chord tones. Okay, mistake number 2, perfect 8th note triplets. If you hear a line that has 8th note triplets, the tendency, and I hear it a lot, was just to write the notes in and quantize it and leave it. You assume that they're all even. 8th note triplets should all be the same length, but actually it just sounds really fake. So let me just take this second phrase and add some 8th note triplets to it, and we can hear what it sounds like. So here we have just straight 8th note triplets on this second chord here. You can look at it in the score. So that's a cool phrase, just kind of descending triads. And if we look at it in the piano roll, you can see we just quantized. So we just have a bunch of 8th note triplets. So actually what happens though is when people actually play 8th note triplets, usually they accent the first one more than the others. So the other ones, or each beat gets a little more accent, and the other ones get ghosted a little bit, which usually means that the rhythm gets adjusted as well. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll select just the second and third triplets of each one and move them back just a little bit, and then select the downbeats and see how that sounds. So that's already pretty good, much better. And you could even try to go a little further. Sometimes I'll move these closer. The third one I'll move back closer and then move them even a little bit. So that's way better, way better. So I think you can hear how much better it is. And finally, number 3, the last thing you should stop doing is verbatim doubling. Now, what does verbatim doubling mean? It means taking a MIDI track and copying it down to another instrument and leaving it as is. So this goes for unisons, octaves, and even if you change the pitches of the notes. So if we take this, we just verbatim copied it. Let's say we want it in octaves with the Barry. So what are some things you can change? So number 1 thing to change would be the rhythm. And I have a video up here somewhere that shows some things about adjusting the rhythm to make it swing better. And so you can kind of adjust some of those things. In Logic, I like these different swing amounts, eighth note swings. So if I change it to something a little different, it's gonna have a different feel. And you'll feel a slightly different rhythm. You would obviously adjust it. So mess with where the eighth notes fall. You can also mess with, in that other video I also mentioned, it's good to grab the entire MIDI file and just move it back just a touch to just make it feel a little bit better. So you can do that in varying amounts for the 2 different instruments. So it's starting to get better. So adjusting the rhythm, and the second thing you can do is adjust the articulation. So different instruments, especially from different families, so like trumpets versus saxes versus trombones, they are going to articulate things differently. And so you might, and this is kind of just trial and error. You can try out some different things. I would suggest putting a scoop somewhere, putting a little fall somewhere. Maybe in trombones, I'm going to put more scoops. So you could just try to mess with some of the articulations of some of the more important notes of the phrase. It'll give it just a little different variation. Let me just try a couple little things. So I added a couple of different articulations, a couple of scoops, a couple of falls. The rhythm is different. I even added a little run in here on this one. So check it out. So you can keep tweaking that till you get it somewhere you like, but avoiding verbatim doubling at all costs is super important. Thanks for watching. Click this video to see tips on things you should do to improve your jazz tracks.